I am Persephone, and I work with people to transform their human experience through identity. So tonight is a very, very, very special night um, because I get to share with you what the solution to what I believe the collective crisis right now is, which is not being in a state of growth and expansion and feeling limited by our circumstance. Now, I know that I recognize a lot of your names. I know that many of you will have watched the masterclass Identity Shift replay. It doesn't matter if you haven't, it doesn't matter if you don't know what on earth I'm talking about. Um, but in that masterclass, what we encapsulate is the fact we come to the conclusion that identity really is the problem, the solution, the pathway, the process by, the fact that it cannot be anything else. So, for example, why two people or five people or 10 people can all experience the same set of circumstances. It could be a low bank account, it could be a relationships, it could be a health. But yet, why is it that everybody responds differently? Why is it that some people use it as fuel? Why is it some people go into a depression or anxiety around it? And they always stay there, and some people move on from that place because we're all viewing the world, viewing our reality through the lens, a different lens. And that lens is our unique identity. Now, you're going to hear me say the word identity a lot. So let me just explain what I mean by the word identity. I'm using the word identity to describe the set of beliefs that you have about yourself, what's possible for you, the beliefs you have even about the world, but mostly the beliefs you have about yourself. So if I am someone that doesn't feel worthy, and I don't think this on a conscious level, but let's say that that was the underpinning of my life, I am going to view my circumstances very differently from somebody that has the same financial situation, relationship status, health status, business status, but does not have that belief. They could have a different belief that's quite limiting, or they could not have that at all. Their experience of the same thing will be different. So, identity, yes, is our set of beliefs about ourselves. The problem is, as you would have discovered on the masterclass, we don't wake up thinking these beliefs. We don't wake up going, I don't feel worthy today, or thinking, I don't feel worthy today. The whole point, the whole trap, the whole reason that we can stay stuck for so long with sort of flares or a little, spikes of motivation or spikes of change, but always ultimately come back to the same set point is because we're not fundamentally changing the belief, but also because these beliefs aren't there on a conscious level. The whole reason that we're staying stuck despite all we know, despite all that we do to try and change things, is because the very things that are creating our results, the very beliefs that are creating our reality, are not there on a conscious level. Those beliefs make up the 98% of all our behaviors and feelings and thoughts and decisions and the things we don't make a decision on, all of it, the actions that we take or don't take on those beliefs, on things that we are not in control of. They are 98% of them automatic. Friends, like use the chat if you want to. You can ask questions and things at the end, of course, but I'm diving straight in for a second here. They're 98% on automatic. What that literally means, and I know you're not silly, but I would need it spelled out to me. That literally means while we wake up thinking to a certain degree that we are in control of our life, control of what we do, control of the decisions that we make. We've got free will. We can choose to do this or choose not to. It's actually, we're not in control nearly at all, because what we don't realize is that, let's say we're going to make a decision about something. It could be joining this call, something as small as joining this call. It might be a big deal for you. It might be as big as leaving your husband or your wife, or quitting your job, or whatever it is. The decision that you're making that you think you're in control of is being driven by the beliefs that sit in your subconscious, by your identity. So for example, if you got to make a decision around leaving your spouse, for example, and you have a belief that you're not beautiful, you're ugly, that you are not worthy of the relationship that you actually want. Underneath the surface, remember, you're not conscious of it. Then do you think that that might change the decision that you make? More than that, the way you feel about it. Before that, the thoughts that you have around it. You would have very different thoughts and feelings about, say, leaving your spouse or not leaving your spouse, if you were empowered, if you felt good about yourself, if you felt beautiful, if you felt worthy. Do you see what I'm saying? All of this that I'm describing to you is to just give you a little encapsulation or review or reminder that it is identity. It cannot be the circumstance. It cannot be the low bank balance. It cannot be the body. It cannot be the job. It cannot be that person. Because why is it that people can have all of the same things that you have? It might be the same health state, the same sort of relationships, same bank balance, but yet they're not responding the way you are. And this is because you all have different beliefs. And we could put it in a different way and say, you haven't all have unique nervous systems that are constructed based on childhood. The things we learn in childhood from like 0 to 7 years old. Your nervous system is like a firewall that was constructed that is in adulthood, allowing or not allowing things to pass through and become new beliefs or new thoughts or new programs, because it doesn't match, it doesn't fit, it's not congruent with what is currently there. And so you could say that the purpose of Source, and indeed everything I teach my friends, is about sorting out your nervous system. Now, I don't like to phrase it like that. I much more resonate with the shift in identity that needs to take place. But you're not going to get far in this call if you think that it's not about your identity, really. It's about getting the right strategy, the right sequence of things in the physical world and moving things around you, or the job needs to change, or I just don't get many opportunities, or so I need to push and find some opportunities. I need to go out and find the right person. I'm not like the right person hasn't come along, that sort of thing. This is not to do with that. And that is why Source truly is not for everyone. Because the biggest trigger that Source has, this world that I'm going to go into, that I've created, is what it requires more than anything else from you, which not everybody is willing to take, is a level of radical responsibility. Radical responsibility for yourself, for your results. This is because if we cannot take responsibility for what we're creating, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, who are we blaming? Who are we passing the buck onto? Right? If we are not willing to take responsibility, we're obviously saying, well, it's something else. It's that person, or it's that thing, or it's that job. And you will, I'm sure, be all of you familiar with the phrase a victim mentality. Now, don't shoot the messenger, but I've been in victim mentality. I can still find myself in victim mentality. I catch myself very quickly and return to truth very quickly. But that is what the opposite of taking responsibility is. So, Source isn't designed, this pathway, this world I've created, is not designed to for someone to start off in a victim mentality. That person, the level of work that is involved in Source, the processes that we go through, the integration, level of integration that we go through, you cannot hope to begin whilst you're blaming your circumstances or other people for your results. You don't have to know, and that's the whole point of Source. You don't have to know how to change your circumstances. You don't have to know the process, but we do have to have some level of acceptance and take some level of responsibility in order to take this next step, in order to embark on the journey of growth and expansion in all ways, shapes, and forms. So, my friends, like I said, today is about Source and giving Source the airtime it deserves for you. Because if you were here, all like 24 of you, which is really impressive, thank you so much. But if you're all here, there is no coincidence there. And I know exactly who Source is for, and I have set my frequency to that level of who I want to bring in. And so, whether you know it or not, there is something for you here. Whether you hear this, what I'm about to share with you, and you're like, where have you been, Persephone? And I've experienced that before with my mentors, past and present, and I'm sure I'll continue to. Where have you been? This is exactly what I've been looking for. Or you know that it's for you, but maybe it's like, okay, I'm feeling like this is something that's for a few weeks' time, a few months' time. We'll talk about that too. Um, there is something here for you. So, questions that you might not have on your conscious mind, that will be answered. It could be one sentence that you hear that changes everything. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened for me. Um, Especially when, if you resonate with this, my friends, you're a consumer of knowledge right now. You're a seeker of knowledge because you know that you're made for more. And so you are trying to get the hit of inspiration and the hit of motivation and gather all the knowledge around the subjects. Like it could be manifestation, it could be mindset work, it could even be something that seems like it has nothing to do with it, like business strategy. Um, but you're consuming knowledge right now. And you know that feeling where it could be just you've heard the same thing before, but this person, they just put it in a certain way, in a certain tone, at the right time. And for some reason, it drops into a whole new level of understanding and clarity and awareness. And you're like, yeah, that's what I want for you, even if it's one sentence. I'm sure it'll be more because you're here. But that's what my hope is for you, that your eyes will be opened up finally to the thing that you have been consuming so much knowledge for, to the solution to the thing that you have been attending retreats, and listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, attending masterclass, attending calls like this, reading the books, what you've been doing that for, the solution that you've been looking for in those things. I have created, and I wish not that I lived with regret. I had had this very thing that I'm sharing with you today. So let's keep an open mind as we go through this, my friend. I won't take much of your time. This call about Source is not me going through, here's lesson one, here's lesson two, here's lesson three, and this is the structure of support. Now, I know we all have a masculine mind, a logical mind that needs that kind of comfort, that needs to know this is the things that we do, this is how long we spend on this is how long it is, all of those things. There is nothing wrong with that. I myself like that as well. However, that's not what this call is about. And there's pages for that. I have a page that you can go to that explains some of that. But actually, what I'd like you to do more than anything, if this resonates, is apply for source and book a call. That's where I'll go over not just that, but some of the masculine pieces that are involved in it. But that is so secondary in my experience, despite the fact that I like to see lesson one, lesson two, module one, module two. Oh, we're covering this, and this is the time of the call, and this is how many calls we have, and all that. Despite the fact that I like to see it, it's never what came first. What do you think comes first before you want to look at those things? Because let's be honest, why would you go to look at a page or book a call with someone or apply for something um, like without knowing anything else except what the modules are? You wouldn't. Some things come first, and I'll tell you what it is, and it is the answer to most things. It is the feeling. And I don't just mean intuition, although obviously that's what it is. What I mean is, feeling is a secret. Something that you hear and feel energetically as I'm explaining what source is to you, you will feel the resonance of it. And you might feel it in a million different ways. You might just know. And it's okay if you haven't worked with your intuition or you're not in touch with yourself too much, but you will know. Sometimes it comes in the feeling of sheer terror and fear, which is also a good thing because as I'm saying it, it's like energetically you've already made the decision that you want to apply for this, that you want to be a part of it in some way, and your body, like energetic system has already jumped ahead to having made the decision before your mind is caught up. And so what you will experience is the feeling of fear. I've had that. I've had that many times before. Also, I remember when I was going to do, and I do practice this, but not as my in my business. When I was practicing to become a Reiki master, and before I'd had my first attunement for level one, weeks before I'd booked it in, and I started having the sensations from when I booked it in. I hadn't had this attunement. I didn't know what it was. But I had all of these sensations and all of these things were happening. And I was having these dreams. I'm like, what is going on? And it wasn't until later that I put two and two together and realized that I'd made this decision already energetically. And my body was starting to have the changes already before I'd even got there. So I want you to become aware of how you feel during this call because, like I said, it's not about the masculine piece. I can do that easy peasy. Anybody can do that. What I want to share with you today is what source feels like, what it feels like, because that is essentially if you apply for it and you invest your money, your time, your attention in this to change your life, you ain't buying into the modules. And you ain't buying into like the calls. That's just a bonus. You're buying into the energy of this, whether you know it or not, right? So it took me years to understand what I've brought to you today in terms of, and in the master classes I run and everything I teach, it took me years to get to the point where I realized identity was the solution. That it was the root of all my problems, that identity was the thing. This is after like a lot of soul searching. And at the time, I was a spiritual coach. For goodness sakes, I was helping people heal, helping people grow, helping people move forward in their lives to a certain degree in different way than I do now. And yet here I was, couldn't make the money I wanted to make, wasn't in the relationship I wanted to be in, wasn't in a house, wasn't driving a car, wasn't making the impact, having the reach I wanted to have in the world. And I was stuck with this frustrating feeling of being made for more. Like, I can't even, we say that, we say you feel like you're made for more, but what that actually feels like is frustration most of the time because there is such a gap between where we are and this unexplainable feeling that we're here for great things, which I remember feeling, well, if I ever told anybody that, it would sound incredibly arrogant, right? But that inexplainable feeling of being made for more, but not having any evidence that that is true whatsoever. In fact, I had all the evidence to the contrary. I had nothing in my physical life to show me that I was here for more, except a feeling great. But when I did get to the point where I realized identity was the root cause, and that's the thing that needs to change, my life didn't change. That's what I really would love to get through to you. My life didn't change from knowing that identity was the thing that needed to change. It was great. It was incredible. It was, oh my God, I get it. Identity is the thing. Identity is the thing from which everything comes. I finally get it. And whilst that was an incredible experience that was born out of many years of soul searching and ups and downs and successes and failures, it didn't actually change anything. In fact, I want to say it kind of made things worse because now I knew identity was the thing. But now, like, but how do I change my identity? How do I have an identity shift? And then it took a bunch more years and turning into the world's biggest consumer of knowledge ever, even more so than I was before, to get to the point where I realized what the process is. And I am not encouraging a mass consumerism in terms of books and knowledge, right? And I'm not saying in order for you to get to the same place, you need to keep consuming loads of books. First of all, you can drop every book you've got right now. The whole point is, as a result of the mistakes that I made, I have created the system that works, right? But I had got into that place, so I knew identity was the key, but then kept consuming things that made me feel like I was doing something about it, like I was changing my identity because I kept consuming things to do with it that felt good. It was like my little cheap dopamine hit, but whilst the knowledge was incredible and golden and it did make me feel inspired and it did inspire changes, the changes still didn't last. The changes still didn't happen. And so every experience I've ever had is what is poured into source. Every mistake, every failure, every success, the source was not born out of me asking the question, how do like what great coaching program do I want to make? It wasn't a business decision. It was a completely different question. What actually transforms a human experience? And I had identity. I knew that. But what transforms identity? What creates an identity shift in the most powerful, potent, quickest, and most importantly, permanent way? I knew there was a way to do this that didn't look like my journey. You don't have to go through all the things that I went through in order to come to the right process because I've done it for you. That is what source is. It is the answer to that question. It is indeed the fastest, most powerful, most potent, and most permanent way to transform your identity, which I know and have witnessed in my clients and in my own life and in the lives of my family and friends, is what changes your life. Source, and this is probably the only kind of, I'll probably drop some masculine bits in later, but source is a pathway that lasts in human time for 6 months. And the reason, there is a reason for every single decision I've made about source. in terms of the more feminine practices in there, the wisdom that needs to be imparted, the integrations, the calls, but also every masculine decision, the length of a lesson, the length of the whole pathway, the amount of calls, the amount of this, it's come from the same place of the absolute certainty in knowing that this is the pathway that changes everything. So this pathway is 6 months, and the reason it's 6 months is because that is how long it takes for us to be able to shift. And I say us, the joint process to not only change your identity, but change it permanently. Okay? Now, I say this, and you still might be thinking, what does she actually mean? Like, what does this entail in terms of the identity shift, like, and having an identity shift? Well, this is where I need to zoom out for you with regards to source. Hold on one sec, I've got a sore throat. And I love my tea. Um, I need to zoom out a little bit and remind you of something that you might have forgotten. That you are not here for no reason. The feeling of being made for more is not there for no reason. It's not randomly there in your heart and within you. The thing that you want, even if you're not 1,000,000% clear on exactly what it is or haven't been honest with yourself about what you want, do you think that's there by accident? Do you think it's there because the universe is just being really cruel and wants to play a little trick on you and go, look, this is what you can't have? Okay, obviously the answer to these questions are of course no. The desires that you have in your heart are not random. One of the biggest shifts I ever had was realizing and being told that the desire I have was, say, the vision of my life, what I wanted for my life, if I could describe what I wanted and paint a kind of picture of it. That's the physical expression, so that what it looks like physically to me when I am expressing the highest potential, fulfilling the highest potential I can in this lifetime. That doesn't mean the highest potential ever, 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 ever. It just means the fullest potential in this lifetime. So when someone says, what do I want? And if imagine there was no fear and no judgment, and you could just say everything that you wanted, all the physical things, the emotional things, all the things. I'm telling you that that image is a snapshot of your highest potential in this lifetime, what that looks like on a physical level. Does that mean that you're going to achieve it? Not necessarily. Again, just the knowing of the thing doesn't change anything. And this is the purpose of Source, my friend. The knowing is not enough. You can come into Source having read a gazillion books and a gazillion courses and intellectually be able to out-talk me on identity and mindset. But none of that is integration. Where is the embodiment? And this is the journey that I went on. The actual integration of the things that I was learning and the things that stood out for me that created an identity shift. And the zoomed out bit I wanted you to know, by the way, when we talked about why you're here, your desire, what you want, it's for you to live. It is placed inside your soul, your heart for a reason. It's for you to live. It is your birthright. Is because in Source, it's a journey also of remembering. So when I say identity shift, when I say new identity, I actually mean an old one. Because the identity you're currently inhabiting, no matter how long you've been doing any of this work or consuming of knowledge, it's it's the identity that needs to still be stripped away to return to the truth of who you are. So whilst I say new, I actually mean old. You've just forgotten because the identity that the beliefs that you currently have are so familiar that they feel like the truth. You know, when people talk about like telling lies, and some people are such prolific liars that they start believing their own lies, and it's absolutely the truth for them. This is not a lie. I'm saying to you that you've bought into, well, your identity they're in right now is a lie. It's not the beliefs you have about yourself, they're not true. Unless they make you feel good, they're not true. So this, if you wondered, if you're wondering or wondered why Persephone decided to call this pathway source of all things, it's got nothing to do with identity. It's for that reason. Because beyond anything and everything that source gives you, the journey is a return to source, a return to the truth of who you really are. And what that allows you to do is to create experiences and opportunities and results beyond your wildest dreams. So when I ask you what it is that you want, that's only what you, that's not just what you want. It's just that that's all you can perceive you want from the level of awareness you have right now. So I remember sharing with my mentor years ago what my big dream was. And now that dream looks much smaller. And there are things that I want now, not because I'm greedy, but we're always here for bigger expression and expansion, but because there's more than I ever realized I could have. There's things that I didn't know existed that I wanted, and I wouldn't know until my level of awareness had grown. And my level of awareness grows through study of self, through integration, through embodiment. And this is part of source. It's all the things that I realized did not work. What was missing from this program, what I felt was missing from that one, what I needed, what I needed. And I know you're not me, but I also know there are many me's out there. Whilst I'm a unique human being, I'm a unique soul, there are many people like me who this process is the absolute transformation, the thing that finally changes everything for them. And that's why you're here. So, Source, as I say, became the culmination of a decade of successes, failures, experiments that you don't have to go through. Because when you realize identity is the root cause, the thing that needs to change, and then Persephone comes along and says, and this is the process. We've got another challenge, and this is the challenge that you don't have to, well, the challenge that you won't have to face in the way I did. And that's what a source has been built and crafted and created around all the things that I know come along as an obstacle that can be challenging when changing your identity, when shifting your identity, when returning to source. All the bumps in the road that can happen, all the things that make it easier. I know because I've been through it all. And so when it comes to actually shifting your identity, even with a process, I'm going to tell you it's not easy. The payoff couldn't be more worth it. The journey couldn't be more worth it. But my friends, this is where I get seriously transparent. And it's going to be like, are you seriously trying to put us off applying for Source? And I promise you I'm not. But it's out of integrity that I tell you that Source is not for everyone. I did mention at the beginning about that kind of victim mindset and needing to take responsibility, sure, but there's a lot more to it than that. Because I've tried the quick, shortcut way to change your identity. I've tried a million ways to change your identity. And I know what is required from someone in order to change it permanently in the quickest way. And it is not easy. And whilst I did it alone, I also wasn't alone because in that time I did have different mentors. I did go on different programs, I did read different books, I did do different bits and bobs, but this journey is not meant to be done alone. And I used to be someone that was so freaking stubborn, my friends. Don't know if any of you resonate. I was like, excuse me, I don't need anyone else. I am Miss Independent and I can do anything on my own and I don't need anyone else. And whilst I still have that streak within me, a huge part of like my growth was realizing we weren't incarnated with billions of other souls to go it alone. That community, despite the fact that I'm a massive introvert, would you believe it, is such an important part of this journey. It has to be. So every part of Source, like the community aspect of Source, for example, is absolutely pivotal. And I can't think of the word now, but it's pivotal in your ability to create the transformation that you want. It's not just one thing in Source that, like a sequence of lessons that help you to transform. It's everything put together, the perfect sequence, the right order of, because yes, I am going to give you more knowledge. I don't actually think the life is having an overload of knowledge and information. The issue is our filtration system. The fact that because of these beliefs that we have, what we're actually being shown, what our brain is filtering for us, or our nervous system, that firewall is filtering for us, is what is a match to our beliefs. It's like you could read a newspaper article and your nervous system is essentially getting a big highlighter and highlighting everything that it wants you to see, but not the other stuff. And everything that it's highlighting is what is a match for the beliefs you have. So if someone is a real complainer and they're reading a newspaper article, that the nervous system will highlight all the things that are a match for that. So something for that person to complain about that's really going to tick them off, that's really going to trigger them, right? So I am giving you knowledge, but that it's the right one. It's the filtered knowledge, but that is just one piece of Source. The biggest difference between Source and any other personal development pathway out there is that it is number one about integration. It is not about learn first, then integrate. You walk through Source, you do not consume it like another program. What that looks like is the sheer level of accountability, support, and the tasks that you're asked to do make you go out world and collect evidence for that new identity. The tasks that are asked of you, especially repetition, you are going to want to rip up the participant guide, after the first couple of weeks, like I would have. But you're going to stick it out because you're that kind of person that knows you are being challenged for a reason. Every bit of source has been created from my experience, what worked and what didn't, what was most powerful, what wasn't very powerful. Or there are three different ways for achieving this aspect of it. What is the most powerful and the quickest and the most permanent? Those were what I always came back to. So, for example, my God, did I try and find a way around repetition? God, did I? Repetition isn't something you're going to have to do your entire uh, life. Every time you change your identity, I believe there is an aspect of repetition, but not quite in the same way you're going to do it in Source. The reason we do a lot of repetition in Source is because repetition is what created the beliefs in your current identity, and it's repetition that is going to rewrite those programs. That is going to bring you back to the truth of who you really are, the true identity. Okay. There are longer ways to do it without as much repetition, but I don't think we're here for that. I do think we're living in a world right now where we want everything in the quickest, fastest, most quick way possible, right? I am not selling a 6 week course on change your identity in 6 weeks and make £1 million or dollars. That's not what this is about. It is relatively short when I think about my journey, what it takes to change your identity. Everything has been put in a perfect sequence. The perfect, like everything been placed perfectly for you, so that every challenge that is met, you are guided, you are supported. That is why you'll hear me say, I have created a world for you. It is the full immersion experience of repetition, yes. That is the most powerful way to change your identity, depending on what the repetition is. And obviously, I'll guide you with that. For the repetition, to what I'm teaching you, to the order in which I teach it, to the tasks I'm asking you to do, to the fact that I'm going to ask you to teach other people in it, not like a whole lesson, but I know from my experience, this is a good example of what I'm trying to tell you. The quickest way to integrate the knowledge that you're so good at consuming is to teach it to someone else. Now, you don't have to be going out and becoming a coach or a teacher, right? No, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to allow you to integrate this in the most powerful, quickest way possible. And that is going to require discomfort. That is going to require really moving out of comfort zones for you. Okay? That's what's required. That's why it's not for everyone. From those things to the level of tracking. So, my team and I are tracking your progress, not as a test. It's up to you whether you do the work or not. But at the end of it, that this is what you're here for. So, if I can see like Sandra has shown up for these calls and she's given me this work and she sent me this, and then suddenly month two, there's nothing. That's going to flag up for me and I'm going to want to get on a call with you. So it's a level of love and care and responsibility that I have for my souls in my participants in Source. And it's being a family. So I haven't only created a world that is pure immersion, I've created we're bringing together, all of us, a family within that world. Not everyone is lucky enough to have a support system at home. And even if they do, maybe they don't understand what it is that you're trying to do. And why would they? Because that person is probably born from the old identity. Even if they're a beautiful, wonderful, loving person, that person is a match for the old identity. All right? So why would they suddenly get it? If you're lucky, they will. But especially at the beginning, you need to have people that understand exactly what you're doing, to share these highs and lows with, somewhere you can come to when you feel nobody in my world gets it. And I just feel like I'm completely on my own with it. You will never feel on your own here because you are fully supported the whole way through. Now, the other part of this is the reason that this is all about embodiment is because that is the biggest challenge. I've seen a lot of people who know that identity is the key and they go on the journey to changing it. They have some of the process, but it's a mess. It's a mess because what happens when you are changing or shifting your identity, you're starving the old identity of oxygen, of its supply of fuel and energy. And what happens to something when you cut off its oxygen supply? It struggles. It clings on for the last bit of dear life. And what that looks like when we're talking about identity work is the old identity is desperately clinging on to the old. It desperately wants you to stay because it feels safe. It does not want you to go over there, right? And that is the battle that happens. And who wins that battle each and every time that voice becomes loud is dependent on the level of support you have, the integration that you're doing. I have seen people change for a week and go back. I've seen people change for a month and go back. I've done it myself. Oh my God, the amount of times I've done that myself. When it came to the level of impact and income I made, where it came to my health, my relationships, everything. This process, I am my own best testimonial of this process. Because as I went through this process myself, albeit in a bit of a discombobulated way, because I hadn't put together source at this time. I didn't realize I was, but just not consciously. I changed my annual income to my monthly income times three. So I tripled my annual income into and made that my monthly income. The impact I had in the world was huge, like 100 times more. And people love saying, what did you do differently? Which completely takes away from the work that happened. Because the truth of the matter was, I didn't really do much differently, as in that the actions that I physically took were not really that different. I manifested my soulmate, like my actual soulmate. And then my dream house, my dream car, and my business and its impact and its growth just expanding exponentially and with such speed. And this is not a result of dramatically changing all the actions that I took. It was maybe a lot of the time, especially at the beginning, taking a lot of the same actions, but with a completely different identity. This is your thoughts creating your results. So this work works. We need the right knowledge. We need the right practices. We need the right accountability, the right level of immersion, the right level of support, the right length of time, the right space to do this in, the right level of connectivity, the right level of touch points with a person that's been there and done it. And that is what Source is. There are study groups, there are meditation groups, there are 2 calls every week for different things. There is a WhatsApp group, there is, like I say, trackers, there are access to resources, meditations, so many different things, a whole participant guide, you get sent gifts. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful experience and it's a world. And this is why I call it an immersion. And I don't like calling it a program because it's a pathway, it's an experience. And by the end of it, you are not the same person, and you are not experiencing life in the same way, and you are not bringing in the same experiences you were at the beginning. Trust me. Now, that quite obviously selects the type of person that Source is for. Somebody that is driven, that is committed, that has a level of resilience that will get built during the course of Source as well, is willing to take responsibility and will not quit because you're not a quitter, and is coachable, is willing to listen to someone that's done it. Doesn't mean I'm always right, but in my experience, this is the answer. This Source is to become one of the leading personal development programs in the world, and I want you to be its founding members. I want you to lift each other up and support each other. This community and Source, the participants of this journey, you are in it for yourself, for sure. I want you to take every single drop of value you can out of it. But I also want you to give value. I want you to connect. We have a directory in there. You can consent to put your details up there in the directory within the portal, within your portal, so that people can get in touch with you. Maybe you've connected with them on a call and you are trying to do the same thing, or you're going through the same challenge and you want to connect with each other outside of Source. Beautiful. Maybe send them something that would help them. How can you be of value? How can you give value? You see, it's a community. It's supporting each other as you support yourself, and others support you too. So, my friends, I think the biggest thing I want you to understand here is that there is a massive difference between intellectually understanding something and actually embodying it. And Source answers the question of, if identity is the key, which I know it is, then what is the fastest, most powerful, potent, and permanent way to shift your identity? And that is what Source is. It's the knowledge, it's the repetition, it's the reflection, it's the teaching, it's the accountability, it's the community, it's the guidance. Each one has its own value, and together they create something so much more powerful than them, the sum of their parts, the individual pieces. And this has been the work that has changed my entire life. So, my friends, can you feel the electricity of Source? Can you feel the potency of what it can give you? Now, I would love to be able to tell you that if you apply for Source and you join Source, then I can guarantee that your life is going to change. Why can't I do that? The only reason I can't do that is because I cannot guarantee your commitment. I can to a certain degree, in the fact that you'll notice you can't just join Source. You have to apply. And applying means essentially having a call with me. As much as you need to find out what you need to find out, I want to answer your questions. I need to find out that you're the right person for Source for all the reasons we've talked about already. Because we're going to be spending a lot of time together. You're going to be in my world for at least 6 months. So that application process is the next step for you, my friends. And so if you can feel the resonance of this, and yes, you know that you don't know the exact structure, but you know you can find that out. If this feels good enough to you, you'll find it out. You'll send me a message, you'll apply for Source, we'll have the call, I'll tell you about it. But just remember, even when it comes to things like applying for Source, your current identity is going to be leading your decisions unless you make a choice for them not to for this time. So I need you to make the decision of whether to apply for Source, whether to join Source from the identity that you would like to step into. Because the identity that you're currently in is limiting you. And I don't have to know the circumstances of your life to know that. I know that there are areas or an area of your life that you are not satisfied with. And if that is the case, which it always will be the case, there is an old identity that is limiting you, a set of beliefs that is not allowing you to move forward in your life in the way that you want to. Now, that same identity may say to you, we shouldn't do this right now. Like, there'll be a better time. Maybe, the whole one day, the whole will start Monday, or maybe it's a better time after the summer, when I've got a bit more time. That feeling of needing to be ready. It's up to you how, and this is why we've run this session tonight, because the feeling is more powerful than anything else. All the rest of it can come after. So for now, my friends, I want you to tap into your feeling. How good does this feel to you? Do you resonate with me? Do you resonate with what I'm saying to you is required from you in Source, and what is required in order to change your identity, full stop? There is no pill that you can take every morning that's going to do it. And sorry, I kind of went off track just to finish off that last bit. I can't guarantee your commitment, but I can to the degree that I'm getting people to apply for Source, rather than just letting people join. When you join, you'll be signing a personal commitment declaration. That's for you. And it will be saying what you are committing to. It's not legal, it's for you. But there are lots of ways in which I can get you to take your commitment one step further. But I still cannot guarantee that you are gonna do the work. I can keep the tracker, I can see whether you've done it or not, but I can't guarantee that you're going to do it. I can't guarantee that you're going to show up to a coaching call or a study session or a meditation session. And they're not all obligatory. I can't guarantee you're going to do that. Therefore, I cannot guarantee the transformation. I can guarantee that everything is there to move you back, bring you back, always bring you back. As my someone that I'm inspired by, Dr. Joe Dispenza says, it's not about how many times you kind of go back to the old identity. It's about how quickly you return to the truth. So in this pathway, you will fall from grace many times. You will accidentally slip into the old identity many, many times. It's not about not doing that. It's about how quickly you return to the one you are creating for yourself. And so you are supported. So you don't need to be like, yeah, I'm committed. I'm there for. I'm going to show up to everything. But there needs to be a certain level of commitment in order to be a part of Source. Okay? Because I have a responsibility to myself, to my business, to my clients and their transformation. So, my friends, it has been an honor. What do you think? I can't, it's very hard to put into words. I've done my very best to try and encapsulate where this has come from, how it's changed my life, how it can change yours, and why immersion and embodiment is not the only way, but it is the quickest, most powerful, and permanent way to change your identity. And once you have it, and you, because I don't want you to be dependent on me, once you finish these 6 months, you will want something else. If you've achieved what you set out to achieve, you're going to want something else. And I don't want you to have to join Source again to do that. You will have the tools. You will know what is required of you. Because if there's something else that you want, that requires a new identity. So you're returning more and more and more. With every identity shift, you're returning to the truth. More and more stripping away what is not serving you, stripping away the false beliefs we have about ourselves and coming back to truth. So the next step, my friends, is to apply for Source. We begin, I'm going to say the week of the 3rd. Let me just check. Yes, the week of the 3rd of August. So that is in under 2 weeks' time, we begin the onboarding process. And I would love you to apply and for us to connect and to understand, is this the right next step for you? It's very easy. There is no pressure, there's no obligation on the call. It's just, is this right for you? And sharing anything that you want to know about the Source that we haven't covered here today. But for now, act on the feeling, act on your gut, what feels good to you. And it's been my pleasure. And again, I thank you, all of you, so much for your time and attention. I know we have people from different places in the world. I think we're mostly US and Canada, but for those of you who have stayed up till early hours of the morning, I see you, I appreciate you, and you are not alone. So thank you so much for your time, and you will receive the recording of this along with the way to apply for Source very shortly in your inbox. So keep an eye out, and I will see you all very, very soon and hopefully connect with you very soon. Lots of love for now, everyone. Take care.